Hello, everyone, and welcome to our WTA Season Wrap-Up 2025 edition. In this episode, we're going to be covering some of our high moments, low moments, and surprising moments of the entire WTA 2025 season as we dish out some very coveted Tennis Weekly awards. I'm excited to announce and bring you, our listeners, some new categories which we will be getting into very, very soon. We will also be reliving our own personal moments of the WTA Tour through our patented Peak Pit Pleasant Surprise, which will be making a return, as well as giving our overall reflections on how we think the tour season has gone.
Yes, and a lot has happened. I feel like I'm in a candy store here because the WTA is what I like the most. And this year we've had four different champions across the Grand Slams. I mean, cast your mind back, guys, because Madison Keys won the Australian Open, which was a huge shock. We had Coco Gauff taking her second slam in Roland Garros. We had a double bagel in the Wimbledon final for the first time in 114 years. That's something probably no one has forgotten, especially Amanda Anisimova. And then we had Sabalenka finally picking up some silverware at the US Open, and plenty more on the WTA Tour. So I think we're going to do the big ones. We're going to do some of the smaller things that happened, and we'll unpack it all Tennis Weekly style.
Yes, lots to go through. And I really had to rack my brains because sometimes at the end of the season, you get a bit of fatigue. I mean, obviously, we're not playing. We're not fatigued like the players are. We
We're not
can't
off to the
really
Maldives for a break.
claim to have that sort of burnout from from just watching the tennis. But yeah, I had to really cast my mind back, but it's been lovely to kind of reminisce and delve into the archives just from the last year.
Our Tennis Weekly crowdfunder is now open. Very, very exciting. Something we do every year, and your support allows us to keep doing what we are doing. We really do rely on your support as a by fans for fans podcast, and so far your support has allowed us to produce and record, I can't believe I say this, 564 episodes across 8 seasons. This season alone we have done a record breaking 94 episodes so far, and for the first time ever, next Australian Open, starting 2026 with a ban, we will be doing daily episodes and potentially breaking that 100 mark barrier.
That would be certainly something, wouldn't it? It's already been another incredible year for us in 2025. And we do want to say a big thank you to our listeners for making this happen. Your engagement has really helped us to grow the podcast and took us to heights we never thought possible. Being accredited at 2 Grand Slams this year, the French Open for the very first time, and also having our own desk as accredited broadcasters and members of the press at Wimbledon for a second year running, putting your questions to the players on some of the biggest stages in tennis.
And of course, there is a significant cost to running a podcast. And although this year we've been fortunate to work with some of the biggest brands, a lot of this is based on an exchange as to what we can give away to our listeners rather than monetary in that sense. So for that reason, the crowdfund is so important to covering our operational costs for things like our broadcasting license for Wimbledon, our media applications, and our subscriptions to podcasting platforms and social channels, as well as upgrading the kit that we use to record on a weekly basis and when we're on site. And if there's anything left over, then sometimes we're able to subsidize some of our travel expenses. It's these costs that make our crowdfunder so important to keeping the podcast running, helping us to deliver this every week without too much of a negative balance sheet at the end of the year.
So, listeners, if you would like to show your support to the Tennis Weekly podcast, please donate to the Tennis Weekly crowdfund, which is now open. We will put the link in the description. And like last year, it is a GoFundMe account. And the link is www.gofundme.com/tennis-weekly-2026. That's www.gofundme.com/tennis-weekly-2026.
Yeah, your support keeps us going no matter how large or small. It's really hugely appreciated. So, from listening to us to donating, we couldn't be more thankful to our audience. It's what keeps us going and motivates us and keeps us passionate about doing what we love. And we couldn't do that without you. So, a big thank you in advance. What a season from the WTA. First of all, have we enjoyed it? Has it been a stellar season, one of the better ones, one to forget? What's your immediate reflections?
God, Joel, I can see you reflecting.
I think, yeah, I think it has been a very, very good season. I think, you've got to look at the top eight. And to be honest, some of the players who actually missed out on the top eight, the fact that Mira Andreeva, who started the season so strongly, didn't make the WTA singles end of tour finals, I think just shows the depth of competition that runs through the tour at the moment. And I think it's made some very unpredictable Grand Slams, a real kind of far cry, I think, from what we've seen on the ATP side of things, with Sinner and Alcaraz splitting the 4 Grand Slams between them. So yeah, for me, I've loved how competitive it is, because it's bred sort of that unpredictableness, I think, with the tour. And I think, a few seasons ago, I think we looked at that unpredictability as a weakness, I think, of the WTA tour, because it didn't feel like there was a lot of stability, particularly at the top of the rankings. But I actually think that conversation has moved this season, and actually people are recognizing there are so many fantastic athletes and tennis players on the WTA tour at the moment. And it means that any tournament, whether it's a Grand Slam or 1000 or whatever it is, you're bound to see some high quality tennis, and you might not necessarily know who the winner is going to be, because it could come from absolutely anywhere.
Oh, Joel, are you a WTA convert? It sounds like you're turning away from the ATP. I mean, that was a very impassioned sort of advert for them. I think it's been a very exciting. I do love what you said, the stories of stuff like the up and down seasons. You can't predict it. Anyone can win, anyone can lose. I feel like it keeps us guessing and it keeps us entertained, because there have been so many exciting stories this year, Kim.
Joel's spelling is also keeping me entertained. On our scripts, as we're preparing facts and stats.
What's he done?
Coco Gauff's name repeatedly seems to be Coco Gauff, which always makes me laugh.
I've done that on a few titles of YouTube episodes, listeners, and it did not help from a search perspective, no.
But we do have a number of Tennis Weekly awards, which we will be dishing out today. So we have got various. We've got our usual ones. We'll be doing, kind of most improved, comeback, match of the year, player of the year, etc. We've also got some new ones as well, which is exciting, such as our new favourites, the player that had the most underrated season, someone who had the season we didn't think they would have, the biggest fumble. So lots of categories to
hugely scientific.
I'm excited. My favorite is the most WTF moment, because I feel like we've had quite a few on the tour this season. So I'm really excited.
That's actually a long category. There's nominations for that one. And everyone's got 10. And
I know, Chris, because we have sort of collected all of our answers between us. But Chris, you have kept your answers a secret.
I have, and that's also why Kim hasn't put me on blast for spelling Coco Gauff wrong, because she can't see I've spelled it wrong.
I know. And we'll also at the end be doing our own slightly more personal peak, pit and pleasant surprise, which isn't really an award, but just kind of personal reflections. So yeah, let's make a start, and I think commence with going back to the start of the season, January the 1st. What players were we all rooting for going into the season, or just one player if you can't think of any more than that? Was there someone that you were really kind of looking forward to following and having a great season? Joel, I'm going to come to you first. Who would that be for you?
Well, for me, it has to be Naomi Osaka, because, she's a player who I think we just know her potential, but we've not really seen her reach her potential too often, I think, particularly going into this season. And to be honest, at the start of this season as well, there was so much doubt. We had episodes where we were kind of thinking, oh, is this it for Osaka? Is she going to take another break? Could she even go into retirement? Because the results weren't happening. She was getting unfavorable draws. I remember just, when it came to the Grand Slams, because of her ranking, she was just getting kind of given difficult kind of round one matches, tricky paths. I remember that match against Caroline Garcia. We thought that was going to be tricky, but to be fair, it was, it was actually a little bit more serene maybe for Osaka. But, it's been it's still, I think, been a bit of a roller coaster, with Patrick Muratoglu, that split happening. And I think that split actually probably gave her a little bit more of a,
Joel,
lease of life.
Who were you rooting for at the start of the season? You recapped her entire season already.
Sorry, yes.
But you were rooting for her from the perspective of you wanted her to get back
I
at the
did.
top where she belongs
But I felt like I was rooting for her going into the season. I still had to root for her
throughout.
throughout the season until we got to really kind of the North American hardcourt swing where she had a good stretch, made the semis at the US Open. So yeah, I'm going to say Naomi Osaka.
And you're still rooting for her now?
Exactly, because the way the season has ended for her, there's a part of me that thinks, she's got a lot more left to give, and she hopefully can rediscover that kind of hard court form she had, in kind of the summer, because that was when she was at her best this season.
Yes. Well, I struggled a little bit with this because I thought, I'm always like following like the likes of Caroline Garcia. We knew this was going to be her final season. More to come on that later. But I was also curious to see how, some of my kind of favorites in inverted commas would do.
The deep cuts from Kim.
Yeah, Jessica Boozer's Monero. And, ever since I saw her beat Vondrousova at Wimbledon as the, defending champion, that she's sort of been on my radar. Samsonova, who, once upon a time I did predict to win Wimbledon. Always gunning for these players that I kind of hope will one day, they will come, that my predictions may come true. And, I've got to say her name, Rebecca Stramkova.
Oh, yes.
You know how much
of a fan
I am.
Favorite.
Obviously, if this was the ATP one, which, there is also an episode for that, I would be, his Jaume Munar would be
all over this one.
Being thrown in. I think Stramkova's kind of the WTA equivalent, but
no one has ever said that statement before, Kim. Stramkova's the WTA equivalent of Jaume Munar.
All three of those players, I think, going into the season, I had, sort of watching, and they've had some good moments, I think it's fair to say. And I will continue rooting for them in their own ways.
I think what's interesting, Kim, is that you've gone for slightly lower ranked players. I'm clearly a Glory supporter because I'm always rooting for Coco Gauff, Svitolina. I love a bit of Ostapenko. I want to see her play well, so you have to root for her. Otherwise, it's pretty messy. And I mean, it's not necessarily going to surprise anyone, but Emma Raducanu, I really always root for her to get back to where she was or once was, or that flash in the pan. I don't think it is a flash in the pan, and so I'm still waiting, and we saw some promise, but we'll get to that later.
Yes, and Emma Raducanu, mixed season, but that's alluding to what's to come as well. Okay, so let's talk about new favourites as well. So who emerged onto the scene that we didn't know we needed in our tennis fandom? Chris, I'm going to come to you first. I'm reversing the order up.
Mixing it up. Yeah, we got to mix it up here. I have to say, I mean, Maya Joint, I was particularly impressed by. She picked up 250s, that Eastbourne title she picked up as well, where she took out Eala in that final, I believe. Really good to see an Aussie coming through because there's so much like pedigree in Australian tennis. There's a huge gulf that's been left by Ash Barty. So for me, I think maybe not the most obvious answer for a new fave, but I think heading into the Australian sort of circuit, it's great to have a home hope that they can really be cheering on, especially a young talent for the future.
Well, I've gone for a similar vein. I've gone for Alex Eala, because again, young hope, really burst onto the scene. I feel like for most tennis fans, she's kind of quite well known now, and they've all kind of pretty much heard of her. Obviously, she's got that connection to the Rafa Nadal Academy, which I think really has obviously been instrumental in her career. And I'm looking forward to what she can bring, because I think she's a really young, exciting player, and I think this has been her absolute breakout season. And I'm Australian Open onwards, I'm rooting as I go into next season. She would be in that category that we've just done prior to this.
I was going to say, Kim, if you're playing, well, if you play along at home, we could do Kim Bingo. And so far, we've already had a Jessica Bouzas Monero, a Jaume Munar, and a Rafa Nadal Academy. So you're ticking all of those off. Am I on the
Rioja again? Is that
you might
the reason?
be. You brought it back.
I mean, she had such a great. I was just going to say, Eala had such a great moment particularly after the Australian Open at the Miami Open.
Yes.
When she defeated Iga Swiatek, I think, to reach the quarterfinals. So,
mega.
Yeah, she definitely had some impressive moments and some historic moments as well. Philippines, not necessarily a nation we associate with tennis. So, yeah, there's been a lot of those kind of historic moments. And yeah, Eala is definitely a very exciting player to watch. My new favourite, though,
no surprises here. Surely.
And, this is a player who captured my attention in defeat rather than victory. And it is Susan Lamens,
You're number
the
one.
Dutch wonder player, Susan Lamens. Yeah, she's had a great season this year. Reached, I think, she's been on the tour for a while. She's had a lot of matches under her belt, but the way she played against Swiatek at the US Open in that defeat, I think it was 6-4 in the third, round two. It just sort of captivated me because I loved how she wasn't kind of phased by the situation. She gave a really gutsy performance, and I think that's really been the story of her campaign. She's kept going. She had a good result in Canada, got to round 3 there.
You've been following closely, Joel.
I have,
yeah.
And I think she's her career high's just been outside the top 50, but I do think next season she can push on and move further and further up. Who knows? Maybe push one of those lower seedings, perhaps, because I don't think there's that much difference, but we'll have to wait and see.
Dutch wonder player. I like how you've described her. But yes,
she's
Susan
the new
Lamens,
Kiki Burtons.
We've got to get her
maybe
on.
Not just yet.
Got to get her on the podcast for Joel. The Lamens episode.
Well, let's move on to our third category, which is underrated season. So which player has actually had quite a good season that's just not been getting the plaudits of the wider media. I'll go first on this one. I first heard of this player when I thought she was representing Poland. I think it was in our US Open catch up, and I mistakenly read the flag wrong. And she's actually Indonesian, and she's actually been making a bit of a name for herself for Indonesian tennis, and that's Janice Tien, who has really rocketed up the rankings this year. She's now 53 in the world. She started about 12 months ago ranked in the 500s, and she has obviously recently won the Chennai Open, which is her first WTA singles title, and her current ranking of 53, she's the second highest ranking ever achieved by an Indonesian player. So obviously in the same vein as Eala doing stuff for the Philippines, she is doing great wonders for tennis in Indonesia. But I don't feel that Tien has had even the same kind of recognition that maybe an Eala has had. She's sort of really come under the radar, and I think kind of on the cusp of the top 50 now, WTA title to her name. We should be looking out for what she can do. She may be flying under the radar, a bit of a dark horse, maybe going into next season.
Well, she's not the Polish number 2. We can
She's definitely
confirm.
not Polish. Yes,
no,
I
so
do
maybe,
apologise.
Yeah, but I think it's nice that you've included her here so we can make amends for that, Kim.
No, I feel so bad. So yeah, well done, Janice. Joel, who have you got for underrated season?
I've gone for quite a big name, but I think a name that's not really been, spoken about, given, I think, a lot of focus maybe on more emerging talent. And that is Aryna Sabalenka, who I was actually looking back on her record this season, 36 wins, 15 defeats, 70% victory rate. I think she had a very good clay season, won in Rouen, and kind of continued that on. Had a very good win against Anisimova, no less, in Montreal as well, 4-1. So I just think she's a player who maybe a few people forget about just because she's been on the tour for so long. She also cut her season a little bit earlier than most, didn't go towards the very end. I think she ended it after a few matches in the Billie Jean King Cup. But I'm going to go for Svitolina. I feel like she's now in this sort of older stalwart type phase, but she's still putting in some very, very good, very, very good performances, I think, on the tour.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair shout. Chris, I know you're a big fan of Svitolina as well, but do you have someone else you'd like to say from your side?
Well, no, I'm very pleased that Joel included that one because 2 quarterfinals to start the year. You know, she really did put on some great tennis on display at Roland Garros, especially. I went a bit different. I've kind of gone in between you two with someone who is well known, but not necessarily, I wouldn't want to say as mature as Svitolina, as much of a veteran of the tour, but someone who is having a bit of a resurgence in the form of Leila Fernandez. I think she's had a very quietly bubbling under season where people might not realise that she obviously won the Washington title and she won a title in Osaka, and she's right on the edge of the top 20. And you do have to think that she is definitely getting back to, where she was just before she hit that US Open form, where she was sort of around this sort of ranking. And now she's kind of playing more consistent tennis. It feels like the confidence is back in. She's such a nice player. And also she's given us some thrills off the season, off court, underrated season, looking for a date, on court, winning the titles.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more there, actually. That's a really good shout. Okay, let's move on to our fourth category now. Fourth award, one of the new ones, I think. And this is
A
for
little bit negative, this section, isn't it, listeners?
Yeah, sorry.
We mean this all from a positive perspective, but in
Yes.
slightly less favourable terms.
This is the award for the drop-off of the year. So someone who didn't have the season that we thought they would have, who's kind of disappointed us and not met our expectations, or I'm sure their own expectations. Joel, who have you gone for this one?
Has really one name for me, and it's a player who played so well last season. You know, we thought maybe was going to retire, but you know, had different priorities, but decided to extend. But really has not had a season that has kind of lived up to the tennis we know that she can play, and that is Danielle Collins.
Oh, yeah.
Chris, what has happened to Danielle Collins?
We've not heard
this
much
season?
from her, have we?
DC. All I've heard from her more recently is maybe her kind of dating profile, and not so much on the tennis.
I mean, that's quite fair, actually. I think she's been struggling for form this year. I think it's always hard to back up such a great season. I think part of the reason she played so well last year was because she thought she was playing on the circuit for the last time. It was her last chance. So maybe she hasn't been able to find that intensity this year. I think she's talked about the financial reasons for playing, you know, getting the brand deals, but maybe she's not necessarily as tennis focused than she has been. So she's so great when she's at the top, but that's a good one, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I was just looking at her final results of the season. Her final result was a round 1 defeat at the US Open to Jacqueline Christian 6-2, 6-love.
Oh God.
So if that doesn't say drop off, I don't know what does. Sorry, DC, I still love you.
Yeah, we are a big fan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone for, well, sort of two players, really. I suppose Caroline Garcia, you know, we know I'm a big fan. She's the Renaissance, or was the Renaissance, and she sadly announced that she was, you know, retiring this year. It was going to be her last season, and due to injury and various factors. But I was kind of really hoping she would have like one last hurrah, go out with a bit of a bang, go deep at something, but it just never happened.
Kim, that final result against Pera, round 1 at the French Open, we thought, you know, we were hoping she would get a good draw and have that, at least have a moment with the, you know, the Roland Garros crowd, and she got a good matchup, but 6-4, 6-4, it's just like,
yeah, it really, her career just sort of heated out, didn't it? There was no sort of
the Andy Murray Twitter effect.
Yeah, never came true, and that's
the prophecy.
Warning to everyone: do not, you know, make bold predictions very early on. It could ruin a player's career. I also think Katie Boulter is one for this category. Very disappointing season, big drop in the rankings, and you know she's been struggling with injury as well. It's come out, but and obviously she's great stuff happening off the court. You know, marriage due, etc. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame for British fans that she's not been able to kind of kick on with the talent that we know she has.
Yeah.
Chris, what about yourself?
Well, I've actually gone for a player that Joel, I know, will also completely agree with. I've gone for a player that we thought would be top 5 at this point, but hasn't quite got there. It's Lulu Sun. I watched her at Wimbledon and I thought, this is someone special, this sort of shot making. And although I'll give her some credit, recently she has definitely gone back up in the rankings in terms of getting some form together, especially on the 125 circuit. She'd make a final of a 250, but I can't believe that sort of run that she had. And then the fact that we haven't seen something from her since. I think it's quite different from, you know, Bresson, who obviously then won a title, has been lingering, sort of lurking, I should say, not lingering. But I'd say, yeah, Lulu Sun I would put in there. But on a more serious note, I think Kasatkina, she's gone top 40 to top 10 to top 40. And that's not necessarily where her game sits either. So for me, it's not the season she would have wanted, especially when she was in contention for the end of season finals last year. Very different situation this year.
Also representing a new country, you sort of want to make your mark, don't you? Even that hasn't happened for Kasatkina.
Could be newcomer of the year for Australia, though. We could give her that award still.
Yeah.
I'd still give it to Maya Joint.
Yeah, me too. I already did.
Moving on to a slightly related category as well. And this is for the biggest fumble. So by this we mean a bit of a, cock up in your match, losing a match you really should have won. Yeah, I quite like this one, even though it's a bit negative. Joel, who
How
gave
long
us
is
the
your
biggest
fumble list, Joel?
fumble? Yeah.
I mean, there's a few matches on here for this person, and it feels quite harsh to say this because they are the world number one. But I've got to go with Aryna Sabalenka, specifically in finals matches and finals matches of big events, because I think although there have been success stories, for example, at the US Open, I think more often than not in those big matches, she has failed to turn up and deliver as the world number one. We saw that at the Australian Open against Madison Keys. We saw that at the French Open against Coco Gauff. End of season tour finals against Rybakina. And the reason I want to kind of call this out is because, as the world number one, I feel like she's so close. She was so close to having a kind of a statement season. But although she's been the world number one throughout the whole season in terms of points, and I think that's very, very impressive, I don't feel like she's got the titles maybe to kind of back it up. And for me, that's been a fumble because I think the opportunity was there. We've seen the struggles with the players around her, this season at various moments, and I thought that was going to favour Sabalenka, but it just didn't materialize, and you kind of wonder, did she want it too much? Perhaps she did. And I think maybe that came out a little bit in some of her post-match acceptance speeches where she sort of said, I'm playing badly. That's why my opponent won the title. So I'm going to have to say Aryna Sabalenka in finals of big events.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that one. I think we saw her frustration, didn't we, as well, when she didn't get those matches that she thought she should. Chris, who is fumbling for you or has fumbled this year?
I had about 4 answers for this, but I narrowed it down to one.
4 fumbles.
I know, but I mean, if I'm allowed to, I can tell you a couple from the shortlist that didn't quite make it.
Oh, yes, please.
I had Swiatek the whole clay season, which I thought was pretty fair, to be honest. And I also had Osaka versus Pavlyuchenkova at Wimbledon, because I was just like, I don't know how Osaka managed to not get that. The story was not supposed to be that way. But I've not gone for that. I've actually gone for what could be an administrative error, a team error. I've gone for Mira Andreeva not playing the final event of the season to get herself into the WTA finals. And she didn't have a good reason for this. And she was there anyway. I think it would have been a really good experience for her to play. I think her season warranted it, and it would have not taken much for her to potentially give herself a shot. So if it is true, it wasn't visa related, it was a decision not to play that didn't pay off, I think that is the definition of a fumble.
Yeah, I think that is very fair. A fair fumble from you, Chris. Thank you. I've gone, and again, I mentioned this player just a moment ago, Katie Boulter. She was, having a bit of a good run at Wimbledon. We also had, Sonny Cartel. We were kind of thinking, oh, the Brits are arriving. But she was beaten by a lucky loser from Argentina, who was world number 101 in the round of 64. And that was Solana Sierra in 3 sets, dumping Katie Boulter out after Boulter won the first
She had such a good win against Badosa as well in the first round.
That was amazing.
Yeah, we all thought that was like, 50-50. And again, it's so confusing because I think one of the most frustrating things about Boulter is that she can rise to the occasion. I think she does love the big matchups in the big stadiums, but she really struggles against opponents who ask her like different questions. And Sierra,
the Harmony Tan effect, right?
Yeah, and I was there for that match, and Boulter won the first set, a real nail biter, but after that she was left completely flummoxed by Sierra.
Yes, so a fumble and a flummox there from Katie Boulter. Let's move on to more positive awards now. We're going to go and think about players who have been the most improved for this season. So there's quite a lot, I think, that have really
had a great season that, shot up the rankings. But who has been your kind of top in this category?
There's got to be an obvious one on the
Ooh,
name on
well,
everyone's lips, surely.
Chris, do you want to go first then?
Amanda Anisimova,
Is
surely.
that your one?
Has
Yeah.
to be. I mean,
Mhm.
at the start of the year, she was a bit lost for form. She wasn't necessarily doing much. We did not think, and I do not think that after, the semi-final run at Queens that would, well, not necessarily that, sorry, I should say the title in Doha came first. I did not think that would happen, and I did not think that she'd put together, a top 4 season. Not because she didn't have the talent, but I didn't think necessarily there was the consistency. It's a very different stage of her career than some players who are coming up at this point. So I think it's been incredible to watch her back up that Wimbledon final as well, with the final at the US Open coming over that. I think in so many ways she's improved, not just this season, but throughout the season, to put that behind her, build her game, build her fitness, build her mental resilience, because it's been stellar, to be honest.
Absolutely. Anything you'd like to add, Joel? Because I think you also put Anisimova for this one.
I got in there first. I saw it
he
written.
did. But do you know what? I actually want to change my answer because I've actually, whilst we've been recording, I've just actually thought, I've got an answer that maybe could potentially rival Anisimova, because I agree. I think Anisimova has been great. I think if I was going to be really specific, I would say Anisimova in 3-set matches as well. I think we've seen that a lot towards the end of the season. I just love how much more battle and energy she gives towards the end of matches. But I am going to say most improved.
Intrigued, Joel. Who is this?
Iga Swiatek on a grass court. I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Yeah.
We saw. We saw her at Wimbledon. I mean, the signs were all there. I think she reached the final in Bad Homburg where she lost to Jessica Pegula, and then just went on this complete tear at Wimbledon. And if you look at her previous kind of form on the grass, you maybe could say that, she's played so well on the clay that it's been at the detriment to her grass season. And I think, that's probably fair to say. I think actually we saw that this season with Coco Gauff, who won the French Open. No time to turn around and didn't really play her best tennis at Wimbledon. But for Swiatek, again, I didn't feel like she really committed maybe to grass in previously. She'd only play Wimbledon. There would be no kind of tune-up event. But here, there was a little bit of a difference, perhaps given her form on the clay. And I think it really paid dividends with ultimately becoming Wimbledon champion, which I don't think anyone was really expecting at the start of the season.
No, that's a fair shout. I mean, I've gone slightly less high caliber for mine. I'm also kind of thinking about British players. Sonny Cartel, I think she's had a fantastic season.
Yeah, she really has.
She's debuted in the top 50. It was her first 4th round at a slam, obviously reaching Wimbledon 4th round. First quarterfinal at WTA 1000 as well. More
she had that great win over
Andreeva,
didn't she? She had a great win over Andreeva recently, I think, as well. Yeah.
So, some big wins throughout the year, and just I feel like the way she also came through the draw at Wimbledon, very frustrating in that 4th round with Pavlyuchenkova. She had chances, but she came through before that very sort of cool, calm, and collected. And I was so impressed with her demeanor. And I think she really maximized her opportunity as opposed to a Katie Boulter who, fumbled it away to Sierra, for example. So I put Cartel as my most improved. So we're about halfway through our awards now. Let's have a look at the comeback player of the year. Obviously, many players returning from injury, maternity, etc. But who have you got for this one? Joel, coming to you first.
So I have gone specific. I've interpreted this as comeback in a match.
Oh, okay.
And,
right. Interpretation. Yeah.
I was trying to think about what are some of the most dramatic comebacks we've seen on the tour this season. And one sticks out to me, and it has to be Elise Mertens' comeback against Alexandrova in 's-Hertogenbosch.
Oh my gosh.
At the Libema Open on the grass. She saved 11 match points to win the match. And I think she won the title.
She did, yeah.
An incredible story. And I can't imagine Alexandrova has not rid that from her memory just yet. But I'm going to have to go with Mertens just on that performance alone. 11 match points. Unbelievable scenes.
Oh, Yeah, that's yeah. I can't argue with that one, Joel.
You trying to
And
argue with me, Kim?
and I interpret this as a general comeback player of the year. So
Okay.
either is fine. I've gone for Belinda Bencic, which I think is probably quite an obvious answer. I mean, she rose something like 492 places this season, you know, coming back from having her baby daughter Bella, obviously won the Tokyo Open and just, yeah, has re-established herself kind of right up there. I think she's currently 11 in the
It's
world.
like she never left, isn't it, really?
It's like she never left. And she's sort of obviously made the semis at Wimbledon, much to your delight, Chris, because you predicted that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I think she has had a fantastic comeback from maternity. And yeah, hopefully that will continue going into next year.
I went a bit different. Again, we've all interpreted comeback differently. Joel, actually, I'm going to have to check my security settings on my drive because it's almost like he opened it up and read what I had for comeback player because I had Iga Swiatek, the comeback from clay to grass as my comeback player of the year. So I guess most improved comeback, you know, there's different ways you can flip it, but that's what I thought because it did feel like people were saying, is she even going to play on grass? Is this a good idea? Like she's really definitely looked like the rebound would not necessarily be winning the Wimbledon title. So I call that a comeback.
Right. Yep. No, that's fine. One comeback from sort of month to month, season to season, or season within a season. I like that. Nice one. Okay. Well, let's move on to our Newcomer of the Year award. Again, I feel like there's quite a few players in this sort of area, but who have we knuckled down to? Which three have we gone for? Joel, who is your Newcomer of the Year?
So this player comes from a country, I think, that has been performing, has had a great year on both the WTA and ATP tours, and that is Canada. And I'm going to go with Victoria Mboko, who has ended the season in the top 20 and had that great run of victories in Montreal in front of her home crowd, kind of debut season on the tour to defeat Osaka in the final as well. That was an incredible tournament, an incredible story. And Mboko is a player, you know, we've kind of spoken about. I think a lot of fans are excited and talk about her on social media. Chris, I remember when she was drafted into Wimbledon at the very last minute. Yes. I think was that last year?
It was this year as a lucky loser.
Was it this year? Yeah, as a lucky loser. And it created so much, hype and excitement. And I think there's a lot of people see a lot of potential in this player and kind of wondering, you know, when was her moment going to happen? And to see it happen the way it did at a WTA 1000 event, that was, I think, truly special and one of the stories of the season. So I'm going to have to go with Victoria Mboko.
Yeah, no, that's a fair shout. She definitely has had such a breakthrough season and had that like dodgy patch afterwards, but obviously has sort of got over that now, it seems, which is great. I mean, I've said this player already today, Alex Eala. I said her for my new favorite, but I think also like Newcomer of the Year, she's right up there. So for the reasons I outlined earlier, I'm going with Alex Eala. Chris, what about yourself? Newcomer.
Well, I also went for something similar to Joel, so I'm going to make something up now. I'm thinking someone who's American, who some people may be familiar with for the Newcomer. At 45 years old, Venus Williams. It feels like, you know, a new time for her. Coming back and playing, but no, I'm joking. I was
like, where's this going? Is he being serious?
New era? No, not serious. But yeah, and Mboko for me as well, because so exciting. I was going to say, just to add to what we've never been in agreement like this, Joel, but to add to what you've said, her list of titles is truly a wild read because she has a 1000 in Montreal. She also has 3 W35 events, including one in Manchester. So wow. She really has skyrocketed to almost a stratospheric rise up the rankings. So hugely impressive. And how can you not be excited by watching her play?
Absolutely. I thought, Chris, you were going to go off track there and say someone very niche, but Mboko, it is.
One of your favorite niche Americans, you know? I could easily reel off a few, but not as many as you, Kim.
Anne Lee. Oh, she been mentioned yet, so I don't know. Right, next category is most WTF moment. And
This is your category, Joel, isn't it?
we don't mean World Tour finals or WTA finals. We just mean what the,
Yes.
So yeah, most WTF moment. Joel, what are you giving us and our listeners?
So there's a couple of options going through my mind, but again, I'm going to go a little bit off piste here. I've got a different answer to what I've actually written down in our kind of in our script. I am going to go for my most WTF moment. Emma Navarro losing in the first round of the French Open 6-love, 6-1 to Jessica Buses-Monero. She went 6-love, 5-love down. She made the fourth round the year before. I was kind of going like, what is going on here? What is happening to Emma Navarro? And I was imagining it was going to be the double bagel, but no, she did get a game. But at the same time, the ninth seed to go out like that in round one of the French Open to JBM. Now, Kim, I know you're going to say Jessica Buses-Monero. I know she's one of your favourites. I know she's a good player, but Emma Navarro should not be losing in that manner against her at the French Open.
Underestimate Jessica Buses-Monero at your own peril is what I say.
But that at that scoreline, I mean, obviously JBM could get the better of Navarro any day of the week.
Is it JBM we're calling it now officially?
Well, just save my breath, But yeah, the manner of that scoreline was surprising. Was not great. Not a good look for a top 10 player there.
That's so niche, Joel.
I mean,
I've show off, yeah.
I've gone for another sort of annihilation, which was the Wimbledon final.
Oh, God,
Iga Swiatek against Anisimova. I didn't think I'd ever see this in my lifetime in a Grand Slam final. And it happened. 6-love, 6-love, less than an hour. Just awful for Anisimova, but what a scoreline, what a history-making, outcome. Just crazy. Definitely a WTF moment.
Yeah, I think we can agree. I mean, I was going to say, Kim, my WTF moment was actually when you put that as your match of the tournament and your peak of the tournament at Wimbledon, and we thought, what the F is she on about?
Well, I was thinking more of the history books,
Yeah, I think
than enjoyment.
You painted it more in a historical, significant sort of light there. I went a little bit differently. I tried to do what Joel has done, and I tried to think of something equally like a deep cut. I thought Vondrousova coming into Berlin, winning the title, then essentially bouncing, that was pretty WTF. We were not expecting that. She could make a quarters at the US Open. It's sad she had to stop there. I also had Venus Williams denying that she ever had a wild card to Indian Wells because I'm still confused because I think
you broke that story.
We did indeed, Alina and I, in Nestville of all places, and I mean, for want of a better term, like this Arsene, Denmark, very an unusual. Sorry if you live there. It's actually probably quite nice in the summer, I'm sure. But she was doing a talk and she said that never happened. And I think this is the theory. She did line that one up. She then decided she wasn't ready for it, but wanted the comeback to be a surprise for maximum impact. That's what I'm thinking. So was very confused for a long time. And I think we all still are confused. And Tommy Haas, tournament director, is sure very confused.
Yeah. I will just add to that. Most WTF moment for me as the podcast was waking up the next morning, going on to BBC Sport, seeing a Venus Williams article about it, and us getting credited, us getting the Tennis Weekly podcast like in the BBC Sport
What
app.
Did you read first? Your text from me saying, "Oh, I think this is something quite big," or reading it on BBC, Joel?
I was just kind of starstruck, but I think I read what you said first, and then I was like, I wonder where this is going.
I wonder what the BBC think. Is this true? Yeah. You fact checked me. Yeah.
Well, I would like to know now both of your worst behaviour of the year moments. So who has not behaved well and not given themselves a good light over the course of the season? This could be one incident, one match, some comments made, etc. Joel, give us your take on this one.
It's got to be Jelena Ostapenko, Taylor Townsend at the US Open, and Ostapenko's comments to Townsend, kind of this story lasting a few days. I remember saying at the time the only positive to come from it was the fact that it seemed to have motivated Townsend into some of her best ever kind of single performances. But Ostapenko talking about no education to Townsend, really, really, really not nice. And even if she kind of apologized and said it was lost in translation what she meant, there's absolutely kind of no room for this. And yeah, I still have to kind of annoying. It's got to be Yelena Ostapenko. Just not acceptable on a tennis court.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think another unacceptable moment was Harriet Dart telling Lois Brasson that she smelled. Well, she complained to the umpire.
About this could have been my most WTF moment as well, Kim.
I know, but about Brasson not wearing deodorant, and that did not go down very well. It was all over the national media here, and I mean, Brasson got her kind of own back really, because she went and made the semi-finals of the French Open not long after, and Harriet Dart hasn't really done anything else.
She did win a W75, her biggest title to date. So
yeah, what would you rather have, a semi at the French
or a deodorant?
Or some deodorant. So yeah, not Harriet Dart's finest moment, but one I shall remember, to be fair. Chris, what about yourself?
I mean, that was pretty bad, wasn't it? I mean, it's a shame that's how Brasson was announced on the international stage and not in the French Open. But that's where she made her name from a tennis perspective. I couldn't not go for Sabalenka post-match press conference after losing that final to Coco Gauff, because that was, truly appalling behaviour. She should never have gone into that room. She was not in the headspace for it. She should have given herself some more time. And a lot of what she said was pretty disrespectful. And it's good that everything's fine now, and I'm glad that they did kind of make peace, and Sabalenka did apologise to Coco Gauff, and Coco took it in good stride. But I mean, from a world number one, a particularly bad look. And
I don't feel like she's learnt her lesson either, because I feel like there was still that sort of vein in the final against Rybakina. There was Riyadh.
Rumours of a certain phrase that she said that basically implied that, like, someone can do something. If someone does something 100 times, one time it will sort of stick, sort of thing, where basically saying like Rybakina can't do this every day, but one time she did against me, sort of thing. Again, that's not verified. That's what people are trying to translate from the lip reading there. But either way, she looked very annoyed at that point, which she can be. But I do just think, be annoyed with yourself. Don't be annoyed at or throw your opponent's performance, in the garbage. It's not worth it.
Quite. No, definitely not her finest moment there. We've got a couple more categories before we move on to our peak pit and pleasant surprise. This is one that's, we don't really want to have to do, but I feel like it's important to acknowledge some of these moments. Most heartbreaking moment from the season. Could be a heavy loss, could be something else.
I mean, I'll go first. I'm very obvious, but my heart broke for Amanda Anisimova at Wimbledon. I know that you were cheering, rejoicing in the scoreline, Kim. And the historical significance of it. But I was absolutely gutted for her, because we know how good she was. I saw her in that semi-final against Sabalenka, and it's clear. She said that she didn't. It wasn't the nerves. It obviously was the nerves. It was nothing like a performance she's had this year, and it was really, really tough to watch. So I do think that has to be the most heartbreaking. I had my friends text me being like, "I feel so bad for this girl. Is she good? Will she be okay?" And I said, "I think she's going to be okay." But it's tough to watch. I was also going to say, I know we've gone past this, but for a WTF moment, she won her opening match against Putintseva at Wimbledon 6-love, 6-love, and then she lost her final match in the final of Wimbledon 6-love, 6-love.
Yes.
That would have been a good one. But anyway, back to being much more somber about these heartbreaking moments. What got the tears streaming for you, Joel?
Well, it's something that's been with me for kind of quite a long time.
The Navarro loss?
No, it was my sort of faint hope that Garbine Muguruza would come back to the tour this season, and it didn't materialise.
Joel. She's the tournament director in Riyadh.
She's having a bubba.
Yeah, sorry. Of course I'm joking.
Okay, good.
But it's got to be, we've just kind of spoken about Taylor Townsend, but that match against Barbora Krejcikova, where Krejcikova saved a boatload of match points, 8 match points. And I mean, fair play to Barbora Krejcikova, because she just raised her level in front of like a baying crowd, pumped up opponent, and was kind of like, if you want to win this match, you're going to have to take you're gonna have to take it to me. And Krejcikova just was so incredible when she was just match point down after match point down. So yeah, gutted for Taylor Townsend because she was having such a good tournament. She was on such a good run, home Grand Slam as well. I really felt the tears when I saw those on the tennis court.
It's tough, really tough to watch.
Yeah, that was a tough one. And I've got that maybe coming up a little bit later for a different reason. But my heartbreaking moment was on Jabeur during Wimbledon and well, just sort of her season generally. She's taken a step away from tennis since Wimbledon, and she went out in the first round, and you think where she's been at before, finalists there and up at the higher echelons of the game, former number 2 in the world, and yeah, had medical issues during that match in Wimbledon against Tomova, and just really sad because she's gone from such a height of being at the top of the game, and we don't know where she's at, if she's coming back. She's sort of indefinitely on leave at the moment. So yeah, it was horrible to see her so sad at Wimbledon. Not nice to see for such a fan favorite as well.
She has said that she's sure she will be back on a tennis court. She was asked in Riyadh. So, Kim, there is some hope.
There is hope. I mean, at the end
she's
of the
so well loved. And it's, you don't want to see the Minister of Happiness not being happy, do you?
No, absolutely. Well, let's move on to a more dramatic award.
We're in the big ones, aren't we now?
The big ones. Match of the year. And I promise I won't say that Wimbledon final. I promise. Well, I'll go first here. I'm gonna because Joel just spoke about it. I was kind of gonna go with that Krejcikova Townsend match, just because of the 8 match points saved. I think any match that has that number of match points saved is got to be a contender. Like the Mertens Alexandra one, which had more match points saved. But yeah, I thought that one was a really fantastic match early on at the US Open, and that kind of stuck in the memory for me as a dramatic one, even though it did mean heartbreak for Townsend. Joel, what about yourself?
I've got to go with a match that happened at the very start of the year. Australian Open semi-finals, Madison Keys versus Iga Swiatek. This was an incredible ding-dong battle between the two. Keys coming out on top, 10-8 in final set tiebreak, saved a match point as well. Coming back from a set down, she lost the first set 7-5, and then steamrolled the second set 6-1, and then just about squeaking home. But this was such an incredible match. I think mainly because Swiatek in this tournament was just so dominant on her run to the semi-finals. She'd only dropped like a handful of games. It felt like she was in imperious form. She lost 14 games across her 5 matches before the semis. And I think we were all sort of expecting we're going to get Swiatek and Sabalenka in a Grand Slam final, which I still think to this day hasn't happened. And we keep asking ourselves, when's it going to happen in a Grand Slam final? And we were so close to it happening at the Australian Open, but Madison Keys just raised her level and kept her composure. And I don't necessarily think we've said that too often in these sort of big moments before. So I'm going to have to go with that match, and backing that up against Sabalenka to do the double to win your first ever Grand Slam title. That is definitely doing it the hard way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that will be in our predictions episode for 2026, a Swiatek Sabalenka final. We'll see.
Don't quote me on that. I'm like 85% sure on that.
They haven't played.
We haven't had
they
one.
haven't
Yeah,
played.
we haven't.
Okay.
You're right, Joel. Don't worry.
85 is quite low percentage to be sure of that, Joel.
I can't back myself.
No.
A very specific amount. Chris, what about you? Match of the year?
Well, of course I said the same thing as Joel again. This is no fun.
Oh, typical.
No.
Am I the
know.
only one breaking the mold?
Yeah, the only one bringing something extra. I can give you something else maybe. I'll go Sabalenka and Anisimova at Wimbledon. I thought that was really exciting. High quality, high stakes. No one took a single mile per hour off a shot. They were absolutely blasting the ball. They were going to win, playing the way that they like to play, plan A only. And it was quite a spectacle. And it was, a fantastic match. And I think probably was the match where everyone really started to take more note of Anisimova at that sort of stage of the tournament where, she'd been bubbling under, you can get to a quarterfinal, get to a semi-final, and maybe won't necessarily be like a household name after that. But I mean, that was quite the contest, and what a result for Anisimova.
Absolutely. Right. Well, we move on to player of the year, the big one, the one that everyone wants to win. This has been quite a tricky one, I think, this year because the slams have all been split. I mean, where do we go with this one? I'm going to start because I've gone for maybe one of the main contenders. I mean, she is the world number one still. I've gone for Aryna Sabalenka. She only won one slam, but she did pick up the most titles, 4 titles, 5 runners up. I think she's got the biggest win-loss record. I mean, she didn't have the standout season she would have wanted. We've already alluded to the disappointing finals that she played, missed opportunities, but above all, aside all of that, she's probably still been the most consistent for me, and I've therefore given her player of the year overall. But I will entertain differences of opinion with this one. Joel, who have you gone for?
I just think it's so hard to give it to Sabalenka based on, based on her record in finals. I can't give her player of the year coming out with just one Grand Slam at the end of the season, and having lost in multiple other Grand Slam finals this season. I just can't do it. And the fact that she lost to Rybakina as well in the end of season tour finals.
Yeah.
I just can't give it. And I think this is for me why this is so hard, because I don't think a player has had like 12 months exceptional season. I think we've had players who've been very good in parts of the season. And I'm almost nervous. I'm going to say what Chris is going to.
No,
because we're on the same wavelength. I don't know. I'm torn between two players: a player who started the season really well and a player who ended the season really well. And that is Elena Rybakina, who ended the season really well, and Mira Andreeva, who started the season really well. I think I'm going to have to go with Mira Andreeva.
Player of the year?
Player of the year based on what she did at the start of the season when everyone was fresh.
Okay.
There was a lot
peak, best play of the year. I think that's interesting.
I mean, she did lose to Lois Boisson.
It's what I find so...
Don't you mean
this
like...
is what's so tricky.
When she got those 2 1,000 titles, when she beat Sabalenka at Indian Wells, I was like, hang on a minute, this tennis is special. It really was. So I do understand that if you're talking the highest level we've seen all year, I can maybe get on board with that if you're beating the world number one.
I'm going to go with...
Fine answer, please,
It's very
Joel.
difficult. I know. It is very difficult.
I'm going to say this based on who I was excited... I was excited by the most, even though their season, I think, tailed off completely after Wimbledon, let's be honest. But just on winning in Indian Wells, winning in Dubai against Torsen as well. The bang that she made at the start of the season for me still resonates, and even though it might seem like a strange choice given how she's ended her season, I'm gonna say Mira Andreeva.
Honestly, Joel,
I know that's incredibly rogue. I know,
very rogue. He hasn't gone for the world number one. I mean, if I was doing this really strictly, I would have to go Sabalenka purely on the results. But I also am the same as Joel in the sense that I do not really believe that you can say that she's the player of the year when, by her own standards, I don't think she's met them or the standards of the tennis that she can play. I always say this. I said this last year at the end of the season. She should have had so many more Grand Slams than she does have. And these Serena comparisons, they're not really comparisons because she's not winning enough Grand Slam titles for that really to be the case. So by anyone's standards, I would say winning a slam, getting to finals is a huge achievement. But for Sabalenka standards, I really thought she'd pick up the Australian Open. I thought she was going to win Roland Garros. And I thought she was going to win the US Open, had a great chance at Wimbledon. And she could have done all of it. She didn't. She won one. So I also find it hard to put her there. So I've gone for Iga Swiatek as my answer. And the reason I've done it is because I think what makes a player of the year as someone who can, triumph in the face of adversity in some ways as well. And I don't necessarily think that that's always been the case for other players. And I think that switcheroo from, her bread and butter surface, her happy hunting ground of Roland Garros, having her whole almost like tennis identity like completely rocked. And it was quite humiliating on an international stage, some of these results, like the defeat to Coco Gauff, and then coming back and winning Wimbledon. I just think that was so impressive. And it just made me think, you know what? We can talk and we can say all we want about these players, but they actually know what's going on and they really are able to deliver in a way that we don't ever know that they're capable of, because so many people would have counted that one out. So I do love that. On that same logic, people be like, you should say Sabalenka, because Sabalenka lost all those finals, then won the US Open. Also impressive, but she did lose all those finals first. So final answer, Kim, are we locking it in?
Oh, hang on. I need to backtrack. I need to
Backtracking.
backtrack. I need to actually say someone else. I need to say someone else.
Janice Tien.
Yes.
Amanda Anisimova.
Okay, right.
It's got to be.
Are we going to edit out your previous answer, Joel?
I think we might, because I think it has to be Amanda Anisimova for me. The way she bounced back from that defeat at Wimbledon, and to me has been the standout player on the WTA tour. The second half of the season, how she finished, had another great match with Sabalenka.
Okay, so forget Mira Andreeva.
Forget Mira Andreeva. I'm going with Amanda Anisimova.
Right, okay.
It just shows it's so difficult because there's various arguments. Of different players,
some of us found it really difficult. Yeah.
But I think all valid answers for their own reasons. And we move on to the final category of this section, which is MVP, most valuable player. And this is based purely on entertainment value. So we're not trying to rate how much players are worth, but what entertainment did they bring to the tour this season? Chris, what have you got for us?
Well, I mean, I've just sort of slammed Sabalenka, but she is so blooming entertaining. She is box office when it comes to her reactions, whether that's in the press room, whether that's on court, whether that's the interactions she has with her team, which are always absolutely hilarious. I mean, we've seen like a tiger on the head of one of her fitness trainers, I believe, like a temporary tattoo, all sorts of things, the bets, the wagers they have, the way she kind of addresses them. And then also like her celebrations are so iconic. We go from like, she's like, I need to leave this and go to Mykonos, go to Greece and party and drink and eat. And then she's like, right, I'm back on the wagon. And then something happens. She's off to the Maldives now to get over her loss. I just think it's so entertaining. And then the US Open celebrations with the champagne. I mean, she knows how to live life to the fullest. She's, very much lives life in the fast lane. And it's very entertaining to watch, but it can sometimes be a car crash, which I think is part of her charm.
Yes, I can see where you're coming from. She does give us some entertainment.
She's such a great. I think what I would say about her as world number one is she's really taken it in her stride, and she's a real show person. And I think we've sometimes missed that maybe from a world number one.
Very different to Ash Barty, for example.
Yeah, yeah. She's a bold personality.
She hasn't gone into her shell. If anything, she's come out of it even more.
Yeah, she's not unconfident.
She's not an introvert, I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe
and obviously, it's nice to have all sorts of types of personalities, but yes, each to their own. I mean, I've gone for Naomi Osaka as my kind of entertainment factor this year. I mean, I love some of the outfits she brought to the tour, very creative, very individual, very unique. But also during the US Open, we had these Labubus, which of themselves are very trendy. These
Billie Jean bling, wasn't it?
Dolls, yeah. So for each of the wins that she had at the US Open, there was a new sort of bedazzled Labubu that was created with names. Well, they were all based on tennis greats, and we named after them. Like we had Arthur Flash, we had Andre Swagacy, Althea Glitterson. It was great. And obviously she didn't go all the way. She was beaten by Anisimova, so we didn't get to see, the full regalia of all the Labubus, but she was kind of, I guess Osaka's in that kind of like fashion arena, isn't she? And bit of pop culture, getting on the Labubu wagon. And that was quite fun to see, I think, from Osaka. I think she she ticks quite a lot of boxes in that sense. And
You do need a
always looking to
fashion
see
moment as
what
well.
she's doing next. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
fashion state.
Even if she's going out in the first round of the French Open, you know, she's serving.
She is serving in not just tennis balls. Joel, what have you got for us?
I'll make this short and sweet, but it's got to be Emma Raducanu and the ongoing stories with Carlos Alcaraz. Are they? Aren't they? Who cares? It just seemed to be the whole talk of the town around Wimbledon time. Evian signed them both up as sponsors.
They were spotted at Wimbledon.
Yeah, the press room became like a gossip. You know, it became like Hello Magazine.
Cam Norrie is not dating Emma Raducanu.
Oh yes!
Oh,
Oh,
God.
That was cringe.
Wait, maybe save that for your pit, Joel.
Yes, we'll get
Good
onto that in a
God.
sec. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say Raducanu Alcaraz. I feel like she loved to sort of
And she
dabble in
turned up
it.
at his matches as well, didn't she?
Yeah,
At Queen's,
Which
having
didn't
a-
help.
And at Wimbledon
The
as
rumours.
well. I saw that.
She
so
is
yeah.
great entertainment, and also some of her comments that she says about, you know, not playing for money or knowing anything about prize money. I'm like, Emma, this is actually crazy what you're saying, but never dull, maybe wrong sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to an end for our WTA Tennis Weekly Player Awards. Well done to all the winners, whether you liked it or
There were a
not.
lot of them. Joel gave out the award twice to
Yes.
Player of the Year.
I retracted it. I
It's like the
retracted my
Oscars
answer.
where they gave the wrong film
I
Best Picture.
know, La La Land or whatever.
Yeah.
Listeners, do you agree with any of those? Who did you think we had spot on? Who did you think we missed the mark on? Let us know your thoughts.
Got to be
on
something they agreed with this
social
time,
media. We do have one final thing to kind of do before we wrap up, and that's just kind of our more personal moments. So we always do a peak, pit, and pleasant surprise when we're at like when we're at Grand Slams, from Grand Slams, etc. So I think we should do that for the season that was 2025 WTA. We'll just kind of go through them very quickly, like one word to the point. And you're ready for peak,
Yes.
pit, pleasant surprise? Yeah. Okay. Onwards we go. Our peak moment of the season on the tour, Chris.
Well, I had quite a lot to choose for this one, but I had to go primarily for Sabalenka and Anisimova. And if you are working media, what happens is you get assigned a ticket from the semi-final onwards, a seat. And I, luck of the draw, got front row for that match of the tournament, my match of the year. So I have to say that. No questions.
Amazing. Yeah, great memory from Wimbledon there. Joel, peak of the season.
Yeah, another great moment for me. Sabalenka versus Raducanu, possibly the loudest crowd I've ever been a part of. It was fantastic night viewing. French Open tennis organisers, take note.
Yes, I watched that from the media cafe. It was just, that was
What
pretty
were you
epic.
having there, Kim? What were you enjoying?
I think it was a Friday, so it was fish and chips.
Fish and chip Friday at
Yeah.
Wimbledon.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
that's
was,
actually your
yeah.
peak. Was the
It
fish
was,
and
yeah,
chips.
that was my peak, the fish and chips. No, but my peak does revolve around food, and it was the strawberries and pasta hype of Iga Swiatek, Wimbledon
Kim.
winner.
How many times have you made that since? Come on.
0, but it is a summery
Awful
dish,
combination.
I have to say.
I actually- we
Joel,
quite
did
liked
you
it.
actually
That's my
try it?
pit.
You
Did you
weren't on
try
that
it, Joel?
episode where we made it. It was very tasty, very refreshing.
Don't knock it till you've tried it. I
Okay.
will make it next year at Wimbledon as an annual tradition. Okay, Pit, Joel.
Well, Chris definitely got he got the better semi-final at Wimbledon, and I did not get a good semi-final. I got Swiatek versus Bencic, 6-2, 6-love. It was over before it even begun. It wasn't full. Everyone was still, taking their breath, I think, from Sabalenka, Anisimova. I remember there also being a medical emergency earlier on. It just stuttered any sort of energy and, mood,
I mean, your mood was low because
yeah.
you just saw how good the previous one was.
Yeah,
So that needed
yeah.
to deliver it. And
Chalk
even if
and
it,
cheese.
yeah, that was a tricky one for you. I am sorry I took that
No, it's
ticket.
okay.
I had to make a swift exit, Joel.
Chris, your Pit.
Oh, well, it comes from, the press conference with Naomi Osaka at Roland Garros where she had to leave because she was so upset. And it just breaks your heart. And I'm so glad that she's got herself back on track because, she's so hard on herself. And the fact that, she was ashamed of her performance based on Patrick Mouratoglou coaching the best and now he was coaching her. And that level of like kind of negative energy towards yourself, it is heartbreaking. So that was a really tough thing to be in the room for. And she came back and it was really difficult. So I have to say that if I'm being a little bit silly and taking this one lightly, I would actually say when I read the email from Wimbledon saying that you're not allowed to eat in the media seats whilst I was mid Plowman's, that was also very humbling. I think that was my pit for Wimbledon, and it stayed with me, Kim.
I hope it was a nice Plowman's,
Oh,
nevertheless.
they are fabulous Plowman's. It's got
I'm going to go eat some cheese, I think.
An apricot chutney in the Wimbledon Plowman's. Yeah.
Lovely. I mean, my pit was the retirement this year of the Renaissance. Already
I think it retired a couple of years ago, Kim, if we're honest.
Caroline Garcia. Yeah, I think the Renaissance retired then and Caro retired this year. But, she's doing her podcast. She got married. She had a really good season aside from that, personally. So all the best to her going forwards. And lastly, we'll finish on a more positive note. Pleasant surprise, Joel.
I covered the debut Queen's event on the WTA tour this season, and there was a moment that stuck out to me. It was after kind of a long day. Anisimova was through to the final, I think, and I got to speak to her in a hallway. She wasn't going to do press, but she was very, very nice. She was very, very nice. I got to ask her a couple of questions in the hallway. So big up Anisimova for taking the time to speak to us. But I was pleasantly surprised by that. At the same time, I was a little bit like, oh God, what am I going to ask her? That was a great moment, and she's such a great character. And just to hear her story, it's a really incredible story. What she's kind of been through and where she's at now. It was just great to have a few minutes with her in a hallway at Queen's.
Oh, maybe we need to dig out that audio and insert audio here. Future editing. Let's see. Maybe we can find it. If not, listeners, I apologize.
On another note, I don't think she said this to you, but didn't she say she really enjoyed going on the tube during Wimbledon?
She loved it. Yeah,
which is
really
very unusual.
I guess she's not commuting in rush hour, Kim.
Most people rather dislike that, but there we go. I'm sure she has a very different experience of London. Chris, your pleasant surprise.
I am gonna have to go for Madison Keys when she won the Australian Open, and I actually put that in my bold prediction. So I think not just because I got something right for once, but more because it's so emotional watching that when all the dreams came true that they didn't necessarily think that they would, and the way that she did it, it was just an unbelievable sporting moment, and I absolutely loved it. And I could dine out on it with Joel for a bit. The fact that I did predict that, so this is the last time I can mention it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I found this one quite difficult as a few things. I mean, yes, I was pleased that Madison Keys got her slam. Pleased that Cartel reached the fourth round at Wimbledon. I was there for that. I was going onto the court, into the press seats, thinking, "Oh, this could be a bit, of a dodgy one here." I was expecting a bit of a Heather Watson-esque struggle, third set, but it was so cool, calm, and collected from Sonne, and I think that was quite a nice surprise for a British tennis fan. So I'm going to stick with that. But I do also want to give a special mention to Maria winning Queens. What a lovely story for her.
How was that not our WTF moment? I mean, that was quite something.
It was. And I think that calls it there. That's a wrap on our WTA season review.
How long was that, guys? Is everyone still with us?
Shorter than the season. So
yeah, just about. Well, shorter than the off season, just about as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've got other episodes. Don't worry, listeners. We've got the quiz. So we've wrapped up the WTA season, but we've got some quiz episodes as well. So do look out for those. But that is a wrap on our WTA 2025 wrap-up episode here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment as we head into the 2026 season. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there.
And if you love what you're hearing, then be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And I do have to say, please don't review us based on not agreeing with us on our awards, because I'm not sure our reviews would be too positive then. But you can also take to social media and you're able to share your opinions on this episode with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. You can also write to us. You can get in touch with us via our email, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. If a question comes to you in the off season or in between these episodes, or a question that you'd like to include in the quiz, then do make sure you let us know at that address. And please do remember there is a crowdfund link in the description, and that's where you can find it.
Yes, listeners, if you would like to show your support, the link is in the description to our crowdfund. But we'll be back next time for another episode of Tennis Weekly. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.